Is it possible to achieve $1 million by 40 years old without any inheritance, winning 4D, or have a high-paying job? This is a question that someone asked on the Singapore FI subreddit. As you might expect, many people think that this is either impossible or something that you need a lot of luck to achieve. But what if I told you that this is actually possible to achieve? And no, you don't need to rely on your grandma's inheritance or join some game show to win $1 million or working at Google. All you need is just being smart with your money, some financial discipline, and a clear strategy. In this video, I will show you how to do just that. But before I start, do join my 10,000 members Telegram chat group to discuss or ask any questions that you might have. Before we begin, let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. While most of us can easily hit our first $1 million net worth by just buying either a BTO or resale in our late 20s or early 30s, get all the available housing grants and ride the property wave up, personally, I don't count this as a legit method. That's because our property is illiquid. So even if it were to reach $1 million, we can't really sell off our house and live off the money because we still need to buy another house to live in. And there's also the issue of CPF accrued interest, where we will need to return any money that we have borrowed back to our CPF, oftentimes leaving us with barely any profits in cash. On that note, we also won't be including our CPF into our net worth, since we can't touch the money till we become old apek or old ama. This means we will just be looking at achieving $1 million in cash and liquid investments, such as stocks. Alright, for a typical male Singaporean, the financial journey will start at 25 years old because, you know, need to go NS ma, and they typically graduate from university at 25. I will also assume that I have zero angpao savings because maybe my mother helped to keep my angpao, but keep sia, she forgot to return it. I will also ignore all the money that you received during your NS years, as well as any part-time jobs that you have worked before 25. So we will start with zero savings. However, what I do have is a degree in computing, which according to the latest graduate employment survey, I have a starting median pay of $5,500. This number includes CPF contribution. So after the 20% CPF contribution, I'll be left with a take-home pay of $4,400. For simplicity's sake, let's just assume that my pay stays the same for 5 years and I have no 13-month bonus, no year-end bonus at all. Next, let's talk about my monthly expenses. Transport expenses will be $200 every month. This includes $120 for public transport rides and 2 to 3 taxi rides every month. Also, since I've gotten a student loan to pay for my studies
and not a father-mother scholarship,
I will need to pay off my loans as soon as possible. A computing degree in NUS would cost $8,250 a year, which totals up to $33,000 over 4 years. Assuming that I've borrowed 90% of the loan from OCBC, which has a 5% interest rate, which starts after I graduate, I will need to pay $890.14 every month if I want to quickly pay it off over 3 years. Next, I'm also paying $150 every month for my insurance. This sounds super cheap. That's because I'm only getting basic health insurance, term life insurance, and critical illness insurance, while avoiding ILP, which can be super costly. I'm still living with my parents, so I don't have to pay for any rentals. This is super common in Singapore, as about 97% unmarried Singaporeans in their 20s are living with their parents. But before you say,
see, you are freeloading off your parents,
don't worry, I'm also contributing $200 to my parents' allowance. This is slightly below average, as the majority of Gen Zs tend to give anywhere between $300 to $500 to their parents. But this is also because my parents are still working, they are financially secure, and don't need additional support. So this is just a easy kind of thing. Time in the market beats timing the market. But with the market being so volatile, it can certainly be a scary time to invest your money. Here's where USmart's zero-cost regular savings plan can help. This plan lets you automate your investments by letting you invest a fixed sum on a regular basis, thereby allowing you to invest consistently without having to worry about market timing. Not just that, you get to save on fees, as the USmart regular savings plan lets you invest with zero commission, zero platform fees, zero custodian fees, as well as zero exchange fees. To do that, open up your USmart app, tap on regular savings plan, choose the stock that you want to invest in, and here you can start investing with as little as $100. What's nice is that USmart lets you automatically e-gyro deduct the funds directly from your bank account, thereby saving you the hassle of manually transferring the money over. After that, you can choose to invest every trading day all the way to every month. New users who sign up to USmart now will get to earn $202 worth of welcome rewards. This includes Tesla share vouchers, cash vouchers, as well as free US and Singapore market live pricing when you fulfill the terms and conditions. So, if you're interested, do sign up to USmart using my link down below. And let's get back to the video. I'll be allocating $100 for my shopping expenses. My food expenses would be around $500. This includes $150 for grocery contribution to the household, and the remaining $350 goes to eating out during work and date nights.
What? Date nights?
Yes, date nights. Because I got a hot girlfriend and I'm not bui forever alone. Though, because of that, I will also need to save up for a number of big expenses, such as wedding, honeymoon, and renovations when I turn 30. According to a website, a typical wedding would cost $44,000. This includes all your stuff like your bridal package, wedding bands, dowry. It even includes a honeymoon trip. Meanwhile, over at dollars and cents, a dream wedding would cost $60,000. So I will just take a middle number and assume that my wedding will cost $50,000. Next, I'm planning to live in a 3-room BTO.
What? Why only 3 rooms? Why not a bigger BTO?
Because I only need a small space to heisho ma. But in all seriousness, we need to remember that the goal here is to achieve $1 million by 40 and not find the biggest house that I can buy. So I'll have to stick to what I'm comfortable with and not spend beyond my means. Plus, in the future, I can always choose to upgrade if I ever want to, whether it's a bigger HDB or condo or even a landed property. Also, since I'll be planning to live in a 3-room HDB, my renovation cost is expected to come out to around $34,000 to $52,000. So let's take a middle number and assume my renovation cost would be around $45,000. If we add up both the total cost divided between me and my girlfriend, each of us would have to come out with $47,500 in 5 years' time. This translates to saving $792 every month. Lastly, I will need to save up some emergency funds to prepare for any emergencies, such as accidentally kena accident or accidentally lose my job. For this, I'm aiming to save around 3 months worth of expenses as my emergency funds, which comes up to around $12,000. Though I don't have to do it immediately, as I don't really have any responsibilities and I'm still living with my parents. Because of that, I'll be slowly saving $500 every month over 2 years to reach this goal. So here's the result. In the first 2 years, my total expenses would be around $3,300, but it will slowly go down once I have paid off my student loans as well as saved up enough emergency funds. Finally, we'll be investing the rest of the cash balance in a low-cost, broad-based market index fund. Assuming that it gives a conservative return of 7% per annum, this portfolio will grow to $123,149 right before we turn 30. We will also have at least $12,000 in emergency fund, as well as $47,500 midterm savings for our wedding, honeymoon, and BTO renovations. Next, when we turn 30, according to the official data, as a professional, I'll be earning around $6,417. But let's just round this number up to $6,500 for easier calculation. This means after CPF contribution, I will have a take-home pay of $5,200. By now, my BTO is ready and I'll be moving into my home. A standard 3-room BTO would only cost around $100,000 to $220,000 after grants. Given that we have sufficient savings in our CPF, we are able to pay for both the down payment and the monthly mortgage using our CPF without using any cash at all.
So, that's nice.
Also, my wedding, honeymoon, and renovation expenses are all accounted for. So, there's no huge jump in expenses during this period. Next, according to the latest household expenditure survey, a typical family living in a 3-room HDB would be spending around $1,474 per household member. This includes food, transport, and other needs. It also excludes accommodation, so there's no double counting. Though, I will suddenly have twins. This is around the average household size, as the same survey showed that an average household size with an average income would be around 3.2 to 3.4. So if you round it up, you will get a 4-person household. Me, my wife, and 2 kids. According to this article by Dollars and Cents, it would take around $13,640 annually to raise a child from 0 to 4 years old. So if you divide the total expenses across me and my wife, that will be $1,137 for each child every month. Now, of course, my expenses won't remain the same every year, as I also need to account for inflation. The average inflation rate in Singapore over the last 20 years has been around 2.08%. But I will just assume that the inflation over the next 10 years will go up to 2.6% due to Trump policies and geopolitical tensions and stuff. So with this, I will be spending around $2,600 to $2,900 a month. This leaves me with around $2,300 to $2,600 to invest. When I turn 35, this portfolio will grow to $354,000. By now, I've been promoted to become a tech lead. As such, my salary has jumped up to $9,600. Due to CPF $7,400 monthly contribution cap, my monthly take-home pay is $8,120. And since I always try to avoid lifestyle inflation, my personal expenses has remained mostly the same. But let's just say it increases by $600 due to labor boost and inflation and stuff. Thankfully, since my kids have now grown up a little, their monthly expenses have dropped to $6,600 when they are between 5 to 6 years old, followed by $9,500 every year over the next 3 years. This brings my monthly expenses to around $3,000 to $3,500. If I continue to invest the balance, my portfolio size will grow to $856,000 when I turn 40. Now, it's getting pretty close to my goal of $1 million by 40, which brings us to the final part. When I turn 40, I still have 12 more months to achieve this goal. By now, my salary would have gone up to $10,500. After CPF, my take-home pay would be $9,020. My monthly expenses and children expenses have largely remained the same, though it has gone up a little after taking into account the 2.6% inflation. When you put it together, this gives us a total of $985,559 in portfolio size. Oh, we are still a little off from our $1 million goal. But wait, don't worry, because we have yet to include the $12,000 emergency funds that we have saved up right from the start. Assuming that we have parked it somewhere that gives a high interest like the UOB 1 or OCBC 360 accounts, we should be earning an average 2% interest over the last 15 years, giving us a total of $16,150. When you add this to our portfolio, we will achieve a total net worth of $1 million. So as you can see, it's certainly possible to hit $1 million net worth by 40, not to mention that it's all liquid net worth. If I were to include in my CPF savings, based on official data, I would have another $200,000 to $220,000 sitting in my CPF. Not just that, the value of my house would have also probably appreciated during these 15 years.
Assuming the housing market haven't crashed yet.
Also, I was just using a rather conservative 7% for my investments. If my investments were giving 20% returns year after year, like what we are currently experiencing now, I will be reaching my goal way earlier. Though, I would also have to admit that this $1 million goal is definitely not easy to achieve. As first, I will need to have a degree, as it's shown that those with a higher education tend to have higher pay. Plus, I also had a lot of things that were working in my favor. For example, my career is progressing well. My parents didn't require me to contribute more money to them. Everyone is healthy. There were no unforeseen circumstances such as medical emergencies, which may set back my finances. Not just that, I was also able to keep my monthly expenses low. This is despite having 2 kids. If I had just 1 kid or even no kid at all, this goal will be way easier to achieve. However, with that being said, even if you aren't able to fit into the perfect scenario to hit $1 million by 40, don't worry, because there are still many more things that you can do to achieve that. First, rather than throwing a grand wedding
and hoping your family and friends subsidize the cost,
more and more couples are starting to opt for simpler weddings. This could easily save tens of thousands of dollars, which you could use to pay for other better stuff like a longer honeymoon trip or just investing the money. Second, by using credit cards, you get to earn cashback or miles on your expenses that you were going to spend on anyway. For example, just a simple card like the UOB 1 card would already give you anywhere between 3.3% to 10% worth of savings every month. Or if you're using the DBS U card, you could even earn up to 18% cashback. Otherwise, if you're on the miles team, you'll be earning miles to heavily subsidize your travel costs. Not to mention, if you frequently take advantage of all those sign-up bonuses or credit card promotions, you'll be able to get some freebies every now and then. Though, of course, just make sure to pay the balance in full every month to avoid incurring any credit card debt, as it will heavily set you back from the $1 million goal. Third, make sure to take advantage of all the available tax reliefs, such as topping up 8K to your CPF every year, SRS top-ups, cost fee reliefs, and more. This will not only let you save on taxes, but it will also help to further boost up your retirement nest egg. In our example, we didn't even use our CPF monies to invest. So if you were to do just that, you could potentially get higher returns over the long term. Fourth, make sure to park your savings at the right places to earn the best returns for them. For example, for money that you need in the short term, you could park them in high-yield savings accounts like UOB1 or OCBC 360 to easily earn 3%. For mid-term savings like renovations, wedding, and honeymoon, you could park them in Singapore savings bonds or even slightly higher risk, higher return investments to earn anywhere between 3% to 6% returns. For more info on where are the best places to park your money to earn the best returns, you can check out my video here. Lastly, while it's important to keep our expenses low to increase our savings, a much faster way of increasing our savings is to just earn more money lor. This could be by starting a side hustle, taking up a part-time job, or even upskilling so that you can find a better paying job. In fact, if you can just change jobs every 2 to 3 years, it will result in a salary increase of 10 to 20% as compared to staying in the same position. Though, of course, this isn't suitable for everyone, as the journey to improving your income may not always be easy. So always do things in moderation, yeah. In short, it's definitely possible to achieve $1 million by 40, but it requires you to make some trade-offs, such as foregoing some of the Singaporean dreams, like upgrading to a private property, owning a car, and going for expensive vacations. However, with that being said, it's also important to recognize that everyone's financial journey is different, and not everyone has to hit this $1 million by 40 goal. Ultimately, the goal here isn't just to hit a specific number by a certain age, but rather is to aim for something that can allow you to achieve happiness and fulfillment. So just focus on what's meaningful to you, whether it's financial security, personal freedom, or living the Singaporean dream. Anyway, that's all for this video. Hopefully, you found it useful. Like, share, and subscribe as I'll be posting new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.